We're going live. Should be live. Says we're live. We're probably live. Welcome everyone. This is On Just Restart. I am joined by my friend Cameron from Gamebird Classic. His channel is linked in the description below. How you doing, buddy?
Doing all right, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. You know, something I haven't pointed out yet is your hair is looking a fair bit longer. It's looking pretty cool.
It's so long now. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm probably due for a cut, but I've been super busy. I'm just like, I'll just let it grow for a bit. But thank you for
looks good to me
for noticing.
Yeah, man, looks cool. So, what we're gonna be doing today is talking about Nintendo. We talk about Nintendo. Is what we do. So make sure to check out Cameron's channel. It's linked in the description below, and my channel also is linked in the description below. I am noticing a little bit of echo, Cameron.
Oh, yeah?
Can you put like earphones on or change your audio settings a little bit?
Here's my audio. My earphones are busted, but this is how I've done it last time. Hold on one sec. Let me.
Yeah. I didn't hear it before until we went live. It's kind of weird, but.
Okay. Hold on one sec.
Or maybe it was the stream playing or something.
It could have been. How about now?
How you doing? I don't hear anything. No.
You don't hear anything?
No, I think we're good.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we're good.
I think it was just my mic placement.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Actually, that looks like it makes more sense. Cool. All right. So I think we're good there. And yeah. So we're gonna be talking about Nintendo, guys. We do that every Sunday or Monday. We're working on I don't know what the schedule is anymore. It's different every week. But we at some point in the beginning, end of the week, we do a podcast. And this week we're gonna be talking about a number of things. We're going to be kind of speculating on what Nintendo could be saving for E3 this year. We're going to be talking about what could be Sakurai's next project, because he did win an award and he did say he was working on something. Might not be related to games, could be related to games. So we'll speculate on that for a little bit. We're also going to do a little bit of a hypothetical if whether Breath of the Wild could be part of a trilogy. We'll talk about that for a bit. And we'll also be speculating on how the next 2D Mario could work. These are some of these topics you guys actually suggested when I asked you guys for topic suggestions yesterday. So they are a big part of the discussion tonight. And of course, anything you guys provide in the chat, we will try and get to as well. So that's pretty much the plan for the evening. This is running a little bit late. I get basically because it's a weekday and I now have to get up pretty early in the morning. So don't expect a 3-hour podcast, maybe 90 minutes. We'll see where we kind of go from there. We'll go with the flow with that, but that's kind of the general plan for the evening. But, you know, Cameron, before we jump into things, how about you tell us a little bit more about what's been going on with you?
Too much. The channel's been a little bit slow lately, but I've got some content that I'm got brewing in my head and stuff. Just been super busy these last couple weeks, playing a lot of Elden Ring when I have a chance, and getting really hyped about the rest of 2022 as far as Nintendo goes. This is a crazy year to be a Nintendo fan. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Actually, I've got a group of friends. We're playing fantasy video games. We each did drafted a bunch of video games and, waiting for the reviews to come in and see who comes out on top. I was very lucky to grab Elden Ring and got a ton of points for that one, as next to Breath of the Wild, it's one of the highest reviewed games we've gotten in a while. But yeah, just keeping busy and excited for the rest of this year because it's looking good.
Indeed it is. I do want to get around to playing Elden Ring. I have not yet. I know there's some people asking about that. I will get to that. Basically, it's my situation right now. Not all my things are with me. My PlayStation's not with me. I'm working a lot anyway, so I don't even really have a lot of time right now to jump into Elden Ring. I'm still trying to finish Legends Arceus. I'm pretty close, so I'm probably gonna have to wait a couple months before I play Elden Ring, because I'm probably gonna prioritize Kirby because I am a Nintendo YouTuber, so I may want to focus on that. But it's not because I don't want to play Elden Ring. It's not because I don't think Elden Ring looks amazing. I've been anticipating it for a very long time. It's simply more of a timing priority sort of situation, among other things. I've mentioned that I'm not even on my normal set right now. I left my PlayStation where it was at, so I'd have to go get my PlayStation and or buy another one. Well, I probably don't have to. It's or buy another one, not and or. But anyway, I mean, I could. Anyway, point is, I will get around to it, but I feel you on the Elden Ring hype because I've seen a lot and I've heard all the hype and discussion, and I'm very excited to eventually get my hands on it because it looks pretty awesome.
I think it's a game you'll love. I mean, obviously, if you played any Souls games in the past and enjoy those, there's so much to love about this. But also, you feel a little bit of that Breath of the Wild feeling you got. That really organic, go anywhere you want, whenever you want. Great sense of discovery. So it channels those Breath of the Wild feels while also maintaining some of that cool From Software, challenging content and cool bosses. It's a gem for sure.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of what I've heard. It is a gem, just the way you can explore the world but still have that Souls gameplay. But let's check in with the chat here. Let's see how people are doing as people are rolling in. We'll talk about a couple little things brought up in the chat, and then we'll jump into the swing of things here. I see Super Chris was here early. Welcome, buddy. Thank you for modding. B James, Prime 4, Breath of the Wild 2, Pikmin 4, and Mario Odyssey 2 for 2023. This E3 digital presentation should also give us an idea of Nintendo's commitment to 2023 for Switch. So those are your expectations for what Nintendo may show off at E3, and give us an idea of what's to come next year. Okay, like that's, yeah, I don't think those are lofty expectations actually. Yeah, for sure. I mean, Breath of the Wild 2 makes sense. Prime 4 getting teased makes sense. Pikmin 4, we know it's been in development for years. Maybe it's been restarted a couple times too. There's definitely some sort of Mario game in development. I don't think it's going to be a literal, true, straight-up sequel to Mario Odyssey, but there's definitely like another 3D Mario that would be like the spiritual successor to Mario Odyssey, I bet, in development, and it could be shown off relatively soon. I don't know if I expect it this year, but, you know, I'm talking about even getting shown off this year, but could it come out next year? I think it could come out next year, so, you know, maybe they do show it off this year. It's possible. So definitely, you know, those are... I don't think that those are crazy expectations or speculations. Moving on here. Yes, Megaton Menace. Yes, Matthew, I am dead. That's right. That's why I was 180 seconds. No, not even 122 seconds late. That's why. It's actually because the lighting was being wonky. I had to adjust for it. So... that's why. It's still kind of wonky, but it's good enough for now. Kim Island, hello there. Hello there, Having Hope 5. Hello. Josh Coleman Anatomy. Hey, welcome. Have you been playing Elden Ring? I'm playing it right now, so it's a perfect combination. I want to play Elden Ring. Cameron's been playing Elden Ring. A lot of people are playing Elden Ring. I want to play Elden Ring. I think it looks amazing. I want to play it so badly. And I will. Just not... immediately, because of life, but it's coming, it's happening. I will play it, and I may make mention of it at some point or another. Hello there, Joshua Mostoller. How are you doing? Super Chris, you also have to get up early. Very good. I'm not alone. Joycey J, hello. DE Fox, hello there. You're watching this podcast while playing Sonic Robo Blast 2. An interesting game choice, Super Chris. An interesting one. Arturo, 3D Mario, not 2D. Yeah, we're going to be talking about 2D Mario today, but, you know, doesn't mean we can't talk about 3D Mario as well for a little bit. Rel, hello, how are you? Having Hope 5, you're playing Xenoblade Chronicles. Okay, good choice, good choice. Sweet Life of Dio Brando, you've been playing Disagia 4. Alright, nice. Crazy Cough, hello. D-Fox, you've been playing Sun and Moon and 7 on PC. Okay, okay. Seahawks 24, hello. I'm alright, thanks for asking. Rel, but is Elden Ring better than Breath of the Wild? No dodging. I don't know the answer to that question because I haven't played the game. But I'll also tell you this. I don't think there is really... I don't think anyone could give a good opinion on that at this point in time. Because I think when it comes to sort of measuring the greatness of a game, you have to see how it lasts over time, how you feel about it after the fact, how if you want to revisit it, its legs, its lasting appeal, its overall impact on the world and the industry and just people in general. Like, I think all those things go into what makes a game great, what makes a game better over another, right? Sometimes things age gracefully, sometimes things don't age gracefully, right? So there's a lot of those things that we don't know until more time passes. And I haven't even played Elden Ring yet, so I can't even if those weren't elements to consider. If it was just like, hey, how do you feel about it right now, right in this moment, I couldn't tell you because I haven't played it yet. I'll tell you that when Mario Odyssey came out the same year as Breath of the Wild, it technically had higher reviews, and it sold better than Breath of the Wild. But what happened over the course of time? Breath of the Wild proved to be the game that won more Game of the Year awards than any other game in history. It proved to be the better selling game in the long run over Mario Odyssey. And it proved to be the game that was far more impactful than anything else, including Mario Odyssey. So, I'm not saying Mario Odyssey isn't a great game. It is. It's one of my favorite games on Nintendo Switch. It's an incredible game. It's the best-selling 3D Mario game ever. Like, it's not, we're not talking about a slouch of a game here. We're talking about an amazing game, a historical game. But Breath of the Wild, I think when you look at it over time, like, Breath of the Wild has proven to be a far more significant game than Mario Odyssey. So, to my point, we have to give it time to see just how great, just how significant Elden Ring really is. And let's just, without even talking about what's better than another, it doesn't always be what's better than another. Sometimes it's just about, hey, this is that, and they're both great in their own way. Elden Ring has taken inspiration from obviously previous Souls games, but also from Breath of the Wild. And on that note, Souls games take a lot from Metroid and Zelda, So, like, there's a give and take both ways, actually. So, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's a really good game, and if you have an opportunity to play it, I think you should play it. I'm gonna play it once I get the chance to do so. So,
yeah. I'll add. I haven't finished Elden Ring. I've put about 30 hours into the game, so I played a decent amount of time in it. I think they're both masterclass games. It's really gonna be, from what I see, it's just gonna be a thing of preference. I'll say this. They are both my favorite open world games of the last decade, for sure. And I think they both push gaming forward in different ways. I think it's just going to be a thing of preferences. There's certain things that Elden Ring does better. Maybe there's certain things that Breath of the Wild does better. But they're both great. And yeah, what is better doesn't really matter. They're both fantastic games that are going to do wonderful things for open world design moving forward, I think.
Well said. Moving on to the chat here. Let's see. I got a chat jump. Monado Mario, you're here for the first time live. Welcome. Glad you're here. Who else but Zane? Legends Unova 6 months after Scarlet and Violet comes out. I'm calling it. Ooh. I don't know. I hope not. Legends Unova would be cool, but also, no. There's no way. 6 months afterwards. I see where you're going with that, though, because Game Freak is being pretty sly here. Like, they're now releasing Pokemon games within a year. Within a year. Like, less than a year. We're seeing gaps between Pokemon games, right? Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl in November. Legends Arceus January, and now I don't know when Scarlet Violet is coming out exactly. It could be November, it could be October, it could be December this year. But, it's within the same calendar year as Legends Arceus. And what if they do want to come out with another Legends games right after? Like, does it come out? I think 6 months is way too soon. But, I do think there's a very good chance that a Pokemon game does come out in 2023 as well. I think if there was ever a time that Game Freak was going to have a gap year, this was going to be the year. because Legends Arceus was technically it would already be the 2022 game, but they were like, nope, we're gonna do another one, and it's gonna be the next generation, and we're not gonna distance or lengthen the generation at all. So there's that to consider. But I would say, if anything, what we get for 2023 is just DLC for Scarlet and Violet. That would be the gap here. There would just be DLC instead of an actual physical release. They would probably still do a physical release of the game with the DLC, but not a brand new thing. So that's what I sort of expect. But I think the Legends series is here to stay. It has a much better chance of sticking around than Let's Go. Let's just say that. It's much stronger sales. Let's see here. All right, I got another ad here. I'll get to that ad. Mononamara, true, but chances once Breath of the Wild 2 is out, many critics might compare it to Elden Ring a lot. Yeah, that is a likelihood that there will be a lot of comparisons to Elden Ring, because they're gonna both be two big open world games, potentially both competing for the Game of the Year award this year, if Breath of the Wild 2 does make it out for the end of the year, alongside Horizon Forbidden West, by the way. It's not going to be the only big open world game that probably is going to have potential Game of the Year nominations. So it's going to be interesting to see. We don't know what Breath of the Wild 2 is going to do. I think without knowing exactly what Breath of the Wild 2 will entail, I have a feeling that Elden Ring has a much stronger chance of winning Game of the Year at specifically the Game Awards this year. And also it may end up still being a higher reviewed game than Breath of the Wild 2. But on the flip side, there's also the chance it goes the other way, right? There is a chance that Breath of the Wild 2 corrects on all the wrongs of Breath of the Wild 1, and it is an even more unanimously highly reviewed game. So that 97, it's more like a 98 or a 99. Like, that's not impossible. Is it super, super likely? No, because it's a rare thing. But if there's a game that can do it, it is the sequel to Breath of the Wild. And if Nintendo has really been making good on the amount of time they spent working on this game, then they could potentially be adding some pretty crazy stuff, and maybe they can reinvent the wheel again. I'm using that as a metaphor because when I say the wheel, I mean open world exploration. Because they did it with Breath of the Wild. Can they do it again with a sequel on basically the same style of hardware? Granted, Breath of the Wild was made for the Wii U and this is for the Switch, so it's not the same hardware, but it's not like it's a significant power gap either. So we'll see, but they have been taking their time with this game, so I'm sure whatever it is going to be pretty good. Yeah,
I think Elden Ring has a good opportunity. Anytime a series kind of reinvents the wheel successfully, it really shoots it up. And Elden Ring does for the Soul series what Breath of the Wild did for the Zelda series. But again, like, I'm hoping that Nintendo, and I've talked about this before on some of my Zelda videos on my channel, that like, there's such big shoes to fill after Breath of the Wild. It's not like they want to do just like, same thing again. We're going to the same Hyrule. They're going to want to build a lot of cool new mechanics, new types of gameplay, things that obviously they're adding the sky element, but there's so much mystery around this game. There's so much we still don't know about what you will see or do. And I think Nintendo sees the impact and the praise it got for really shaking things up. I don't think they're going to want to do a cookie cutter sequel. I think they're going to shake things up again for sure.
Yeah.
Especially because developments, granted, we've had the pandemic, but for a game that's using the same physics engine, the same art engine, they've been working on this for some time now. This is almost like full-length, brand new, from the ground up Zelda development life cycle. So I don't know. I think we're in for a treat with this one. I think we're going to get a more populated, a more dense and diverse gameplay and Hyrule than we had in the first game. So yeah, anything goes.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just made a video kind of talking about like why is Breath of the Wild 2 taking so long, and one thing I wanted to point out was that technically we know that they started Breath of the Wild in earnest January 2013. That's what Nintendo has told us. If you watch the making of Breath of the Wild videos, they say they started development for Breath of the Wild in earnest January 2013. Now, the reason I have this focus on this earnest terminology here is because technically they jump into the next project pretty much immediately after the first one. Like, maybe it's not full-scale development, but they are working on concepts and ideas and playing around with things all the time. Like, it's not like they're like, they may even be working on the next Zelda before they're done with the current one. You know what I mean? So, you know, there is some sort of, we don't know exactly when they started this and that, right? But we also know that they were working on Breath of the Wild 2 in 2017.
Yeah.
And they were playing around with a lot of the DLC concepts, and it's very clear that the development jumped straight over into a sequel. And we know that there is leftover DLC ideas that they decided to just push into a whole other new game. So if we just take from what we know, Nintendo has told us that they, at some point in 2017, let's assume holiday 2017, and let's assume that the game comes out holiday 2022. That's a 5-year development window, right? And according to Nintendo, they started development for Breath of the Wild 1 January 2013, and it came out March 2017. So that's 4 years and less than 2 months. So Breath of the Wild 2 is already going to have a longer development cycle than Breath of the Wild 1 from that perspective. Now, if you assume they started the beginning of 2012, shortly after Skyward Sword, then the development time is about the same, 5 years, you know. But then another thing to consider is that COVID has likely delayed things at least a year for Breath of the Wild 2. But then also on the flip side, Breath of the Wild 2 is being built off of Breath of the Wild 1. It's a direct sequel. There's already an engine in place, and it is taking place in Hyrule. Yes, there's new things, new areas and things they're making, but there still is that base land there. So that should cut down development significantly. I'm not talking about a few months, like we're talking about maybe a couple of years. Like, typically the engine is what takes the most amount of time. So when you already have an engine in place, and you already have a lot of the assets in place, and locales in place, you should be able to get the game done quicker, not take longer, or be comparable. And regardless of when exactly it started or ended, or how much the COVID has sort of changed things, it's clear the development time is comparable to Breath of the Wild, if not more. Yeah. So it makes you wonder, what are they doing to this game that is making them take so long? Because this is very clearly not just a clear, easy, straight up 2 to 3 year sequel project. This is something more significant. And that's you know, it's interesting to when you think of it like that. Like, what are they doing? I think it's going to be cool. I don't think Nintendo's really showed us enough to suggest that they've been working on it for so long. Because even in the second trailer showed a lot of stuff that just looked kind of like almost like DLC for Breath of the Wild 1.
It really feels like we've seen nothing on this game, to be honest with you. Even the fact that they're not revealing the name because it leans into spoilers tells me there's a lot of stuff, exciting stuff to be seen that we just haven't gotten to.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's there's a lot there. There's a lot of potential there. And we're going to touch on this more because we literally have a Breath of the Wild related topic for tonight's discussion. So we'll come back to Breath of the Wild in a bit. But I want to get to this one additional act because I think it may... I haven't read it. I just see like some keywords, and I'm assuming it's going to help us segue, but we'll see. So it's coming from Elemental Hero Shadow Link Dragon Wolf King. Amazing name. Do you think we will see new systems for Year 3? Also, do you think this year or next year we'll see systems back in stores, if not this year or next year? So I think as time progresses, the supply shortages will become increasingly more manageable because they are creating more manufacturers. They are working on this, and we are adapting to the pandemic situation, right? Not saying it's going away entirely, but, you know, there are... I haven't looked up where we're at with the pandemic, but we are getting better at managing it. I'm not saying it's going away, but we are getting better at managing it as a society. So with all that in mind, the situation will improve year by year, I think. I feel like it's a fairly safe thing to say, assuming nothing else comes that makes it worse. God willing, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see. But do I think we'll see new systems at E3? My answer is no. I don't think Nintendo is revealing new hardware at E3. I think it's too soon. I know that there is new hardware in development. I did see that NVIDIA leak. We've talked about it here a couple times already. But I don't think it's coming. I don't think it's coming out this year, first off. But even if it was coming out this year, I don't think they would talk about it at E3. For example, they didn't talk about Nintendo Switch at E3. They didn't talk about Switch Lite at E3. They didn't talk about Switch OLED at E3. So I have no reason to believe that Nintendo will talk about their next hardware at E3 either. So there's that. Not to mention, Switch OLED came out 6 months ago. Not even 4 months ago, 5 months ago. I think they're not going to reveal new hardware half a year later. I think that's too soon. But that's for the Nintendo side of things, right? You were just talking about systems in general. Can we see something from Sony and Microsoft? I feel like they're still kind of working on getting their current systems out there, right? There's already a couple different versions for both the PS5 and the Xbox Series. Like, I don't think they need another revision immediately. I don't think so. They could do it. I'm not a big Sony Microsoft expert, so I can't tell you with 100% certainty. Well, I can't be 100% certain about anything, but I can't tell you with great confidence that there won't be something around then. But I feel like there's not really a need yet, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think. I think you made great points. It really seems like Nintendo's realized that E3 is just not the best place to show off hardware when they can focus their energy on showing everyone all the great software that's coming out to the system they have. And I think they'd rather control the messaging and do hardware reveals in directs. Like, it's just been really successful for them. Do a fully controlled presentation on the hardware. Let E3 be a time to share, this is everything that's coming. This is why you should be excited for the hardware. As far as Sony and Microsoft go, well, Sony kind of already revealed new hardware. They've got the PSVR 2 coming out. So I think if anything, we'll be seeing more of that and what that's going to be doing. Maybe the next thing on the horizon for Sony is a PS5 Lite or PS5 Slim model.
Yeah, but are we there yet?
Such a big console.
It is very big.
Microsoft, I'm not sure. The Series S is pretty compact, and I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't like.
Yeah, when you have the Series X and
think
Series X, like, what else do you need to do? Like, they're both cutting edge. Like, what? I mean, as far like, what else do they need to do? I don't know.
Yeah, I think new hardware, Sony focuses on the PSVR 2 and getting PS5s in stores so people can buy those.
And I guess the point we're making here is that we're not even saying that there can't be new hardware discussed this year necessarily, although for Nintendo, I feel like that's pretty much a no. It's just we don't think it's going to be talked about around E3, right? Like, so to be clear, it's not even just that we think that there will be... I'm pretty sure we're both on the same page here, Cameron, so correct me if I'm wrong, but... we both don't think there's going to be hardware spoken of at the E3 related events, but by extension, we also mean there won't be new hardware announced within that time period either. So, like, if there is going to be new hardware, it's going to be a few months later or beforehand, not during June, basically.
Right. And if Sony did do a PlayStation 5 Slim this year that they announced, again, I don't think that's an E3 slot.
It might even be like just a couple months before it's going to happen.
Right. I feel like that's maybe at the end of a showcase or a state of play or showcase or even a Twitter video, just with like a trailer of the new Slim model.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't hold your hopes for new hardware from anyone, especially not Nintendo.
Not this year. Even though the kind of games we're seeing, though, it does make you... that is the one thing that sort of makes me wonder what's going on here, because this year is looking ridiculous. 100% ridiculous. And we'll be coming back to the chat, because I think it's now a good time to jump into one of the topics. We got 4 topics to discuss tonight. And obviously, at this point, we're headed towards the E3 one, so we're going to get into that first. And we're going to be talking about E3 for pretty much every week until E3 and then a few weeks after. But I guess it's the first official E3 semi-related podcast. Well, here we are, midway through March. We still got 3 months. It's the E3 hype train. It's begun now. So, what is Nintendo saving for E3? What could they be saving? We just talked about how we don't think it's hardware. What could they be doing? Because you look at what we know about for this year, and they pretty much, like, they don't even have to announce any more new games. They just have to give us dates for the games that are already known. So is there really anything else Nintendo is saving for E3, right? Like, this first half of the year is already bonkers. We got Legends Arceus, and Triangle Strategy just came out, and then Kirby's coming out in a couple weeks, and then in April, well, that sort of did just get delayed. Maybe, I don't know how long it will be delayed for. I'm hoping maybe it comes out, say, May, because that looks like May's a little bit vacant anyway. But either way, in April, we're getting Nintendo Switch Sports, and then in June, we're getting Mario Strikers and Fire Emblem Three Hopes. Warriors, the name, it's some combination of those words. That game's happening. And then Splatoon 3 is due out for summer, and then Bayonetta 3, Mario Rabbids with Sparks of Hope, Breath of the Wild 2 are all slated for some time in 2022, so presumably all second half of the year. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is already slated for September. So there's already a sick lineup from Nintendo.
Did you also mention Pokemon Scarlet Violet?
That's another one that was just confirmed. That's a huge one. It's not even like a little deal. Yeah. It's like a big deal. The first open world fully Pokemon game ever is coming out this holiday as well. So like there's already an insane lineup. Nintendo doesn't have to announce anything else, and there's a lot for us Nintendo fans to play. There's a lot there. But I do think they will announce other games. I absolutely do. And in fact, if you just take a look at this first half of the year, I think it goes to show that, yeah, there are going to be more games announced. Because if Nintendo's willing to have a month where, say, for example, this month, March, where we're getting 2 major Nintendo games. And then in April, we were supposed to get 2 major Nintendo games as well, but they delayed it because of the war. That's the reason why. Otherwise, it would have been both Advance Wars and Switch Sports. But then in June, E3 time, Fire Emblem 3 Hope Warriors, Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hope is probably what the name is, and then Mario Strikers, like both this, and there are 2 major games coming out in the same month. So I think that goes to show you, when you have multiple months in the first half of the year, the slower time of the year, and you have major games coming out in the same period, when we have the second half of the year, why should it be any different? It's not going to be slower. If anything, it's going to be even more significant, even more densely packed. So, there will be more game announcements. That I believe. Now, will they all be to the same level of Breath of the Wild 2 and Scarlet and Violet? Probably not. They'll probably be smaller scale. But small scale still may be a big deal. Smaller scale could still be like a Donkey Kong, or an F-Zero, or a Wave Race, smaller, a Star Fox. There's some pretty good options that they could do to fill in some of those smaller gaps. I don't think it'll be Astral Chain 2 because we're getting Bayonetta 3 this year. But, there's a lot of opportunity for maybe a couple other more niche Nintendo franchises to get thrown in there. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but maybe even 2D Mario. That's not niche, but, that could also be potentially fit into this year. So there's some serious potential for this line to become even more ridiculous than it already is. Not
to mention, Nintendo generally always does the thing. We'll be doing a 40-minute E3 presentation focusing on the games coming out for the second half of this year, but they always sprinkle in like 3 or 4 early next year games. So I imagine we'll get some more titles sprinkled in to fill out any of the small gaps for this year. But we're also going to get like an early peek at what we have to be excited for leading into 2023 as well.
Yeah, you're right. I would say E3 is a time where they start to build up the next year a little bit. I totally agree with you on that.
A few games. Sometimes it's like a couple small ones, but then one really big game to be excited for the following year.
And I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I don't know if do you want to say it or should I say it?
Well, I don't know if we're thinking the same thing.
There's one thing I'm thinking that's a really good chance to show up at E3 this year. It's not coming out this year, but will be shown off at E3 this year. I think it's a good chance of it.
What I'm thinking, it might not be the same game as you, but I think that this is finally the time for us to see our first
Hold
peek.
up. Wait. Does it rhyme with door?
Maybe.
Yeah, it does. All right, go on, do it.
Yeah,
Do
Metroid
it.
Prime 4.
There you go.
Where
See,
the
we
hell
were
is
on the
it?
same page. That's
Yeah,
it.
same
Yeah.
page. No,
Yeah.
I think it's time. And I know some people might be like, well, the studio's still hiring. Like, something's up. Like, they've barely started development. No, this game is deep into development. The studio's growing. The studio's investing. I think it's time to see something. It's been a long, long time. No way we're getting that game this year. That's not going to be one of the fill in the blanks. But would not be surprised if 2023, maybe like October-ish, we could see a Metroid Prime 4 release.
Yeah.
Maybe, just maybe.
I think so. I think I was not wearing this Metroid shirt intentionally, but yeah, no, well, I mean, we're on the same page. I haven't had a chance to talk about it with you, but like you saw the banner art that Retro Studios posted, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So like I think that we're seeing the beginnings of that marketing cycle, and they're gonna tease Metroid Prime 4 this year. I think there's a pretty good chance of that. They may not do it at E3, but it is one of those things that they could be saving for E3. But on that note, though, there is something that I do feel that will be at E3 pretty much no matter what. And that's Metroid Prime Remake. I do believe that's coming this year. That if there's one game that's not announced yet that I think is coming out this year, it's Metroid Prime Remake. Now, could it be delayed to like early next year or something? Yeah, it could be. But do I think it's like in the cards and within a year of release? Yes, that I also feel very confident in. Honestly, I think it would be weird for Nintendo to not mention Metroid at E3 at this point. If it is true that they have this big marketing plan in place, I think they're gonna definitely talk about Metroid at E3. They made sure to announce a Metroid Dread sort of free DLC. So that free DLC is coming. It's come, and some more of it will come in a bit. And that's it pretty much for Dread, I think. I think the reason they're just doing free DLC is because they have a whole other new Metroid game coming out for the second half of the year. And that's a Prime remake. It's not a new game. It's a remaster make, whatever. But that's coming. So I think that's being saved for E3, for sure.
Yeah. It's a good way to keep up the momentum of Metroid right now. Getting Dread, it was a critical hit. Fantastic sales for, like, obviously not like this mega ton console pushing seller, but for a Metroid game which has struggled in the past to sell well, this game is doing extremely well. Got a Game of the Year nod, fantastic reviews across the board. Momentum is up for the series. I think a Metroid Prime remake to get people kind of pumped and ready, and like a tease, like our first look at Metroid Prime 4. It just makes a lot of sense right now. And I guarantee you that the critical success of Metroid Dread probably lit some fires under the bums of people at Retro Studios, you know? Like that had to have been pretty inspiring and motivational to see Metroid make such a positive comeback like
right.
that.
Yeah, like if Dread can do that, what can Prime do, you know?
Right.
I feel like
Prime is the type of game that would obviously appeal to a more broad audience than Dread. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's coming.
I think it's also a tougher game to get right, though.
Sure, totally.
Yeah, I'm not saying it won't get me. I think they will get it right, but you know,
right,
for sure. So you know, that's definitely something I think they could be getting saved. And excluding like new stuff, I think it's also worth mentioning that the games we do know about are also being saved for E3. Like Cameron, you mentioned earlier, we know barely anything about Breath of the Wild 2. You know, like if there's a time that Nintendo's going to actually blow out this game, when do you think it's going to be?
Yeah.
E3, right? So I realize I worded that as like rhetorical, but not rhetorical. Anyway, but yeah, so like Breath of the Wild 2, you know, I think it is due to have a massive blowout at E3. So Nintendo's absolutely saving it for then. They didn't mention it at the February Direct. They didn't mention it at the September Direct. I think it's because Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be the big showcase at E3. Definitely. Now, something to note...
will be this year's Game of Show.
Yeah. Something to note is they didn't announce anything Zelda. And I think that strengthens the argument for Breath of the Wild 2 being the big showcase, because say, for example, they had announced Twilight Princess Wind Waker HD at the February Direct, then they'd be like, we would just see maybe a little bit more of that at E3. It comes out in the second half of the year, and there you go. That's the Zelda content for the year. But because they didn't do that, it implies they have something else in store for Zelda, and that's, I think, it's already confirmed for this year. Like, it's not even like a big surprise, because Nintendo's told us that Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out this year, so I don't really think that should be really too much of a shocker. It just, everyone kind of is in this belief that it has to be delayed. Like, it's just Breath of the Wild, I guess people just kind of perpetually believe that Breath of the Wild 2 will always be coming out a year later.
Even if hypothetically, let's say the game is getting pushed into early 2023, I think the fact that the game was meant to, like, they announced that, hey, we're aiming for 2022. I think that at the very least, there's something big to show. So even if it was like unfortunately, like, this game is being pushed into early 2023, but we've been waiting so long to show you this really special trailer.
Yeah.
And boom, you get 5 minutes. It shows tons of new gameplay, new story elements, new mechanics, the title.
They'll still blow the lid off the game.
Yeah, I think regardless of the delay, it will be, as far as Nintendo goes, it'll be their showstopper, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the same page. Even if it is delayed, I think E3 is when we get to see a lot of this game. There's another game, though, that I think Nintendo's been kind of keeping a relatively tight lid on, and I think they're going to open that one up as well, and that's Splatoon 3. So, like, yes, we know about Splatoon 3. Yes, we've gone, I guess, at this point, 3 trailers. But we've gotten 3 trailers over the course of over a year at this point. And we know about the game, but we haven't gotten, like, a good sort of, like, hands-on experience of the game yet, right? Like, we know salmon runs in the game, which is awesome. We don't really know exactly how the single player will be. They've been it's just sort of been teased, and we've seen snippets of the multiplayer, right? But they haven't given us like a deep dive yet. I think E3 may very well be when they give us that deep dive, when they give us those treehouse hands-on. I'd like for it to be sooner. I think there's a possibility of that, so that's why this one's maybe more debatable. So Nintendo may not save Splatoon 3 for E3 because they could. I feel like it's one of the games that they could show off beforehand. At least maybe give us like a test fire in May. That's a possible. I think it's also within it's a strong possibility that what will actually happen is they will save it for E3. They'll talk about it at E3, and they'll announce a test fire at E3, and it'll happen either later in the month or in July, and the game comes out, say, like August or something. Because if they didn't give us a release date, but they said summer, to me, that suggests late summer. But it could still be July, like, which is midsummer. Like, that's totally possible,
Yeah, I think no later than August, possibly July. It's a summer game for sure. Yeah, I was actually, like, Splatoon 3 was one of the games that I thought was going to get a big showcase in the last Direct that we had.
And they talked about it, but it definitely wasn't that much.
Yeah, that was surprising. But yeah, no, I think you kind of nailed it with that. I don't know what more I could add. I think you nailed it with that. I think possibly show a little bit of that before E3, but most likely E3 with the test fire announcement seems like perfect for Splatoon.
Yeah. Now, something I just want to kind of mention, right? Like, I remember with Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the title told us spring, and I was like, all right, spring. So technically, it could be March, but I'm gonna assume later than earlier. So I assumed like May, right? And they're like, nope, it's coming out March. So with that in mind, right? They said summer for Splatoon 3. In theory, it could be for June, but I don't think it's coming out in June because they gave us this summer timetable alongside the announcements for both Mario Strikers and Fire Emblem in June. And with 2 major Nintendo games coming out in June, I don't think they put a third one that's even bigger than both of them there, right? Like, 2 is foreseeable. 3, I think you're stretching it. Like, maybe if that third one's like a smaller, like, eShop title, okay. But when it's Splatoon 3, likely going to be one of the top 3, maybe top 4 best-selling games this year for Switch, I don't think, it's top 5 for sure. Like, I'm saying top 5 because you have Legends Arceus, you have Scarlet and Violet, you have Breath of the Wild 2. All of those games could probably sell over 10 million at least, right? And then Splatoon 3 also could be one of them, but another one that comes to mind is actually Switch Sports. Like I could see Switch Sports really exploding. But anyways, point is, big seller. I don't think it comes out in June. It's July or August. Like that's pretty much it. So maybe early September, but probably not. But what else could they be saying for E3? Besides blowing out Breath of the Wild 2 and Splatoon 3, obviously they'll talk about Bayonetta, assuming it's not delayed. And also they probably would talk about Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, assuming that's not delayed. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 will have more information shared for that as well. These are kind of givens, right? We only mentioned Splatoon and
Pokemon as well.
Well, see, the thing about Pokemon, though, is that Pokemon Company traditionally reveals the information about their games before the event, right? So there's a really strong chance that what'll happen is that they'll have like another Pokemon Presents like a week or so beforehand, and that's when we'll get that information. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's showcased at E3. That's possible, but more likely we learn about it beforehand.
Yeah.
However, they still get a spot in the presentation, and there is still a treehouse where we learn even more during the E3 show. So regardless, there still will be Pokemon news at E3, but like that initial sort of like the focus of that new news was probably gonna come like a week or two beforehand.
Agreed. Pokemon Company always does things that way. But yeah, I do think that we'll for sure see some like hands-on gameplay. Like you said, Treehouse is a really good place to showcase the open world mechanics and the combat. But for new stuff though, I would not be surprised. Nintendo's kind of been doing this a lot with the Switch, but I feel like this could be a time to see something that we haven't seen in a while, a series that we haven't seen in a while kind of pop back up.
Yes.
Maybe it's Donkey Kong. It's been a while since we've gotten a Donkey Kong game.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something more obscure, like people have been talking about how they'd love to see, maybe something like Golden Sun return or pick a new Pikmin. I feel like we're going to see something that we haven't seen in a while make a new appearance at E3 this year.
F-Zero.
It's F-Zero.
F-Zero.
Yeah.
It's happening. F-Zero's happening. Probably not, but like at some point F-Zero's gonna happen again. At some point, At some point F-Zero's gonna happen again. Same thing with Star Fox. Like they're gonna happen again. They're not dead. They're just dormant for a long time.
I'd love to see F-Zero. I'd really love to see Star Fox because my hope for the Star Fox series is that Nintendo has learned how great of an impact it can be on the series reinventing the wheel and stop making Star Fox 64 over and over again.
Yeah.
Do something more ambitious. Like, I've talked about this with Brandon on the show because him and I are both big Ratchet and Clank fans. And I think there's a lot of inspiration that Star Fox can draw from the Ratchet and Clank games.
Okay.
I don't think Star Fox Adventures is a disaster title. I think there's, some redeeming qualities about it, but I think Ratchet and Clank kind of nailed that kind of like, platforming action, but also the space stuff. I think Star Fox can, if they really put their minds to it, they could really nail that balance. They've already got the space dogfights down. If they could just make the universe a little bit more expansive and more of a grand adventure, it's hard with the on-rail shooters that take you 2 hours to complete and then you've got to find the secret paths. It's great. I don't think it works as well in the modern era of gaming. I think they need to do something to make this adventure a little bit more grand and really branch out what it means to be a Star Fox game going forward.
Yeah, that's a fantastic idea. I could see something like that for sure. Like that would be honestly a great direction for the series, and I could see it. But something that I've sort of been thinking, which is kind of like a separate direction, and maybe it's not Star Fox they do it with. Maybe they do that idea for Star Fox and move a different direction. But regardless, so you look at like what's coming out for the second half of the year. Bayonetta 3, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, Breath of the Wild 2, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. All those games, some of those games may have co-op or multiplayer elements, but for the most part, all those experiences are big single-player experiences, right? Like I have some theories about Xenoblade maybe having some multiplayer involved. Mario plus Rabbids will likely have some sort of co-op, and I think we know it has co-op involved, right? And Scarlet and Violet will have multiplayer because it's Pokemon, but the big portion of it is single player, right? Point I'm getting at here is I think there will be more of a, if we're gonna get announcements for games, especially Metroid Prime Remake is also coming out in the second half of the year. That's another single player campaign kind of experience. Nintendo may want to balance that out a little bit and have something multiplayer in there, right? So if they did revisit Star Fox, you know, and they went, this would be an entirely separate direction from what you suggested for Star Fox. So maybe make it more like a Star Wars Battlefront kind of game, but Star Fox centric. You know, that's something they could do. Or it could be F-Zero. Just give us another racer that's not Mario Kart. You know, that's another option. They can do that.
Yeah, it's funny. When rumors were really like amping up about Mario Kart 9, obviously before we got the huge monumental announcement for Mario Kart 8 DLC, which I am so excited for.
Yeah, we're getting the first video is coming out at the end of this week.
But you know, people were talking about like, well, what are some of the new things that Mario Kart can do to shake up the series? And you know, a lot of people suggested a battle royale mode. Maybe every lap, the last five racers get eliminated until you're down to the last 5 racers. And I feel like that could be something that would be really cool in F-Zero because it's such a fast racer as a mode in it, not as the core of the game. I wouldn't want just an F-Zero battle royale, but just thinking of ways that they could reinvent the series a little bit with the multiplayer. Some sort of like neat, like, because it's got that cool cyberpunk Neo Tokyo feel to it, and just be zipping through at insane speeds with, you know, all 25 racers knocking out 5 till this like high octane race of the last 5 people. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, it would be super cool if they could do something like that.
My point is, there's ways to make F-Zero stand out from Mario Kart. It doesn't have to be one or the other. There's ways you can, you know, I don't know. They can coexist still.
Yeah, I mean F-Zero, right? It's a lot more intense from like there is battle. Like F-Zero has battle. You know, you're one of the goals is to take out other vehicles. There's the death race mode, right? Like which is like kind of like already like a battle royale sort of thing, last vehicle standing. So they could make an F-Zero, to your point, that's maybe something like along those lines. Like that would be, and it'd be different. I think that's the key here. Like they could give us another new experience that will be different. It doesn't even have to be F-Zero. Imagine a new wave race. I would love a new wave race. That would be something fresh.
Fun. Yeah.
That would be super cool. Now I could also see them just kind of putting wave race to the side and maybe just adding like a jet ski mode to Switch Sports as DLC down the road, which would suck. I mean, it would be awesome, but it would also suck because I want Wave Race. You know, it's kind of like the F-Zero centric Mario Kart tracks in Mario Kart 8 are really cool, but they're not cool as a substitute for F-Zero, you know? So like jet skis in Switch Sports would be awesome, but not as a substitute for Wave Race. So, you know, another option. I mean, heck, what if they do Pilot Wings? You know, that's another franchise that they could do that would be very different from everything else that's coming out at the time, you know? Heck, what if they were to make Pilot Wings like almost like a multiplayer centric kind of game? Which, by the way, also Switch Sports had some sort of Pilot Wings. Switch Sports sort of like took elements of Wave Race and Pilot Wings and made them as like mini games. But there's options. There's options. Heck, Star Tropics, why not revisit that? Or Earthbound, which again is more of a single player sort of thing, but there's a lot of things Nintendo could do. Oh man, imagine Ice Climbers. Like if they were to come up with like some sort of like multiplayer platformer that's Ice Climbers, that'd be sick.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I think it was the creator of Super Mario RPG says like for his final game he'd love to do another Super Mario RPG game. I'm not betting on it, but that would be a dream come true. I love Super Mario RPG.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I'd love to see that too.
You know, Nintendo's been really cool during the Switch's lifespan with lending out its IP to other companies. Obviously, they've collaborated with Ubisoft to make the Mario and Rabbids universe. They've collaborated with the Warriors games with Hyrule Warriors and Fire
Heck,
Emblem
Bandai
Warriors.
Namco made Smash Brothers.
Yeah. So
they almost made Metroid Prime as well, but that was
right. That fell through.
That's not confirmed information. It's just widely believed information, by the way. But whatever. Yeah. Maybe
we'll see another license thing. They license out a property for another cool collaboration. That would be really cool.
Yeah. There's so much they could do with that. Something else actually that they could be saving for E3 that might not even be a game would be the trailer for the Mario movie. Because the Mario movie is supposed to come out at the end of the year. And if they're willing to have announcements of the Mario movie in a Nintendo Direct, then I also think that opens the door for more Mario movie related announcements in a Nintendo Direct. And with an E3 Direct, it's an even more significant Direct than a September Direct. And something more significant than announcing the voice actors for a movie would be an actual trailer of the movie. So I would not be shocked if they're saving the Mario movie trailer for a Summer Direct or an E3 Direct this year. That's something else that may happen. I kind of want it to be separate, but either way, it's something that could be there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd prefer that to be separate, but it wouldn't surprise me if it made its way.
Yeah.
Another thing that wouldn't surprise me, though, is the announcement of a new Mario game. Would not surprise me at E3 this year.
I agree and disagree.
Scenario.
What kind of Mario game?
Well, I'd love to see a new 3D Mario. It's possible we get it is possible we get a new 2D Mario. But I'd like if we get more of like the 2D style, I'd love to see them do kind of expand on what they did with Mario 3D World, which I know isn't a true 2D Mario, but I feel like that style of like point A to B, like get to the flagpole Mario games, really took those games to the next level in a way that like games like New Super Mario Bros. Wii or New Super Mario Bros. Wii U didn't, where those feel a little bit more safe and stale.
I want you to hold that thought because this is a whole topic for this discussion actually.
Fair enough.
Let me check in with the chat, and we'll actually go back right to your point here because I think it's great, but I also think it ties into our next topic. So, yeah, just checking with the chat here. Well, how do you guys feel about things Nintendo could be saving for E3? Thomas O Anatomy, are we seeing Metroid Prime 4 around E3 time this year? I think there's a good chance. Let's say 50-50. I think something Metroid shows up at E3 regardless. I just don't know if Nintendo's like I talked about earlier. Like I think there's a good chance, yes. Let's see here. Kind of focusing on ads and super chats right now, guys. Super Mario RPG in the HD 2D Octopath Triangle strat art style. That would be amazing. Imagine they use HD 2D for Super Mario RPG. That would be so good. Because, I mean, they're pumping out they pumped out what? Octopath Traveler, Bravely Default 2, now Triangle Strategy. Do another one. They're pumping these out fast. They could get another one out, but this one make it Mario RPG. That would be so cool.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Auto cracking. Wait, Mario Kart Tour is Mario Kart 9? Basically, it's sort of canonized because the tour tracks are being added to the Booster Course Pass. And the point of the Booster Course Pass is to add tracks from Mario Kart games throughout the series. So they're adding Tour, and that sort of suggests that Tour is a mainline Mario Kart game. And with 8 being the one before Tour, the implication is that it's Mario Kart 9. And even though not every Mario Kart game has a number to it, there is an order there, right? So Mario Kart Tour probably is Mario Kart 9. Let's see here. Jean-Carl Adamy. Nintendo might announce the rumored 2D Donkey Kong game for a holiday release. That's possible. I sort of shied away from that conversation, mainly because while I do think it's happening, I don't think it's happening this year. And I could be wrong on that. But my thinking simply is, I just don't feel like they need to do that now. Like, they could do it. They could give us a 2D Donkey Kong game. I'm just seeing all these single player experiences that we're already getting. Like, do we really need another one? Now, a 2D platformer might be not the worst idea to come out with in the second half of the year, though, because we have open world Pokemon, we have open world Breath of the Wild, we have a third-person action adventure Bayonetta, Metroid Prime's a first-person adventure, so a 2D platform might actually be kind of a nice change of pace when you look at it in that way. It also, it could be a good co-op experience as well, right? So, maybe Nintendo could see Donkey Kong as a good fit for the second half of this year. I'm kind of assuming it's a next year thing, because I think it's something that could sell really well, and I think Nintendo may want to put something smaller in terms of sales potential this year, like an F-Zero or a Wave Race. But, I ain't going to be upset if Nintendo announces Donkey Kong for this year. Not at all. So it's possible. I'm just sort of ready for it to be a next year thing, not a this year thing. Vincent Parantu, where's Charmander? Charmander is in my other apartment that I need to get stuff from. In a couple months I'll have another set and Charmander will be there. Maybe in time for E3. That's a good goal. Let's see here. Monado Mario added me. Yep, with how media treated Wii U at E3, Nintendo has never revealed their next console or any console refresh at E3 ever again. Yeah, after the Wii U. Yeah, that's a good point. I think shortly after the Wii U was announced, they started doing the Nintendo Directs, and they really started focusing on the marketing. Cameron, to your point, you were talking about how the messaging is more focused with their own personal presentations. That was it all adds up there. But let's jump into what Cameron was talking about here. So one of the topics that you guys are suggesting I do is talk about like what we can maybe hope to expect from a 2D Mario, right? And to your point, Cameron, maybe this idea of 2D Mario isn't even necessarily 2D Mario, but more like 2.5D Mario. Now, I'm gonna be talking about potential 2D Mario specifically, but I think this is also a good avenue to sort of explore here, because we haven't seen traditional 2D Mario in a while, and when you do something like 3D Land, 3D World, it's sort of a mashup of both, but it does give you a lot of gameplay options. So, I don't know if I cut you off from earlier, but if you could continue on with your thought process there, I'd love to hear it.
I was just gonna say that the new Super Mario Brothers series, to me, got stale pretty quickly. And I know one of the big appeals for those games was the multiplayer. They had that chaotic mechanic. Someone falls off a ledge, they come back in the bubble, but I feel like they really succeeded on a higher level in the multiplayer in 3D worlds. Given that kind of, like you said, 2.5D, a little bit more of a 3D environment, it's still race to the flag essentially from point A to point B. But it made for, I don't know, a little bit more of a chaotic multiplayer fun. It also made for more interesting level design. And I feel like there's still a big enough distinction between a game like that and a game like Mario Odyssey to where those seem to coexist really well and complement each other really well. And I don't know, we got Bowser's Fury. I think that whole expansion kind of clues us in on what's possible more in the next 3D open world-ish Mario than it does the next 2D. But I think the success of 3D World and the mechanics that exist in that seem like they hit a sweet spot for the traditional side-scrolling type game.
I could even see a scenario where, to your point, like let's say they decide that it's going to be two sort of separate directions, right? As it already has been, but what they do is they sort of lean more towards the 2D side with the next 2.5D game, right? Because With 3D World, it was sort of like the 3D Mario for the Wii U. So they needed it to kind of be a 3D Mario game, but then also not be, right? So I could see a scenario where maybe you're right and they kind of go in that direction, but by going in this direction, they save most of their 3D gameplay concepts for the mainline, like Mario Odyssey style kind of games. And even though it is 3D-esque, right, there is still like a camera to some extent and angles and things of that nature, they kind of side more with the 2D style gameplay. And then there's a little bit more of a clear division, but it is still, to your point, like the 2.5D style of Mario, the point A to B. It would still be a 3D game, right? Probably just, set paths, basically. That could be cool. I mean, that's definitely a direction I could see them maybe going in.
Yeah, it's the thing about the 2D is I feel like they perfected the 2D Mario with Mario Maker 2. And for me, like if I had to have just a 2D Mario, that next step for me personally, I'd want Mario Maker 3 and for them to really expand on all the things that make that great and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mario Maker games are so well done. And I think Mario Maker 2 had 100 courses for like the kind of single player mode.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's like with like the online like ranking level system, it's infinite fun and such good multiplayer too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It's interesting because like I've sort of talked about it before. Like if they were to make a Mario Maker 3, I wouldn't even think of it as them making another Mario Maker for 2D Mario games, but I would think of Mario Maker 3 as like Mario Maker 3D, where it's a Mario Maker for 3D Mario games, right? Like take a look at what they did with what's it called, Game Builder Garage, right? Which I know is sort of built off of what they did with Labo, but like Game Builder Garage, like you can basically make like a simplified sort of 3D Mario game with that. Like what if they're just honing in on that and just sort of expand that and make that like Mario Maker 3D, and that's Mario Maker 3, but it's for 3D Mario. That would be really cool too,
Yeah, I think that's a cool concept and a great name too. Like it works.
It's pretty clear, but that's not 2D Mario, right? That's opposite of 2D Mario. So like for 2D Mario, to your kind of point though, you brought up how like Mario Maker, it offers up so many gameplay possibilities that are near infinite that in a way I know some people disagree with this, but because of the existence of Mario Maker 1 and 2, it's almost like Nintendo put themselves in a corner because it's harder to come up with unique concepts because there's so many things that can already be done because of the Mario Maker games, right? And also you mentioned this earlier, because you mentioned how you kind of feel like the new Super Mario Bros. Series, the latest 2D Marios, feel almost uninspired, very cookie cutter, as opposed to some of the more 3DS Mario entries, right? Like, when you take both those things into consideration, 2D Mario is kind of in a weird situation right now, because the latest 2D Mario games have felt that way. Almost uninspired, not too much new content there. They're not really covering any new ground. And then with the Mario Maker stuff, that has kind of covered new ground, but sort of because of the near infinite amount of possibilities of the editing and such and the communities involved, what can Nintendo do where they can present something new, something fresh, something that feels worthwhile for fans to buy a brand new 2D Mario, right? And I think that's an interesting challenge for them. And but I think the focus here is that it's a challenge. It's not an impossibility. So I don't think we'll never see 2D Mario. Right. And, I do like what you brought up, though, that you suggested maybe our idea of 2D Mario will now change, right? Maybe what Nintendo does is they have the Mario Maker stuff, and maybe they'll do random things like Mario 99 and things, and then they'll just rely on Virtual Console, but it'll be more of like the 2.5D style games while you have the open world, open sandbox Mario games as the other series. Like, that's a possibility. But I don't want to give up entirely on, like, full-scale 2D Mario. Although at the same time, though, maybe we shouldn't necessarily think of it just straight up 2D. Like maybe they do blur those lines a little bit, right? Like you look at Mario Odyssey, and they had a lot of cool stuff with there are some 2D Mario segments within Mario Odyssey, right? You would turn into like 8-bit Mario and explore and platform in 2D but on 3D platforms. So
Right.
like, you know, there's obviously maybe not obviously, but I feel like if you play the 3D Mario games, you play the 2.5D Mario games, and you play the Mario Maker games, there's so many different like gameplay possibilities when you factor all of that, right? Which goes to your point about maybe doing 2.5D Mario, because it gives you the option to do all of that, and really mix things up there. But you know, I would be curious to see them just kind of like focus purely 2D. Like, what if they were to make a 2D Mario and make it new stuff? Bring in new mechanics that haven't been done in Mario Maker, that are just entirely new, and it's just a new 2D Mario experience. Like, how doable is that?
I just had a thought because I'm thinking about new Super Mario Brothers Wii and Wii U, and there was something really cool about Super Mario Brothers Wii U, the Starry Night level. Unfortunately, it's one special level.
Did you notice my thumbnail?
Was that?
Did you notice my thumbnail?
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
Starry Night in there.
That was really cool. So I just had this thought. This new Super Mario Brothers, it plays it so safe with the 2D Marios. You get a lot of those kind of like similar looking aesthetic levels.
Right.
The same things you've seen 100 times. We haven't really done a 2D Mario game that's like super themed. We get really cool themes with 3D Mario. Mario Galaxies, really cool space theme. Mario Odyssey with like Cappy and traveling. Why does 2D Mario always have to take place like Mushroom Kingdom style with like the
Like,
ice zone?
Yeah, the
and
basic
grass
zones,
zone?
right?
Like, what if we got a 2D Mario that was super themed? You know?
Yeah, like that one sort of Starry Night world.
Right. And there's
yeah.
all sorts of like crazy worlds. Maybe Mario in the beginning gets sucked through a portal of madness, and there's like a new bad guy.
Well, like
and
it's kind of like what they do with
Mario, and
Kirby,
you go through all these
and
different
Yoshi,
cool
right?
Worlds and levels.
You look what they do with Kirby and Yoshi. Like they've done the whole yarn thing. They've done like the crafted world thing. Like they've played around with yarn and cardboard and paper. You know, maybe they should try something like that. And actually, you know, the reason I did the whole Starry Night thing as a background, and it's been discussed before, I really do like that world from New Super Mario Bros. U, because it's like the one world that's like unique. But I would love it if they were to do a 2D Mario and just like don't make it 3D. Don't use 3D elements. Or if you do, like make it look really cool. Like go for like a very painterly look or a very like animated kind of look. One idea I sort of touched on before, like what if they were to sort of almost go like in a Cuphead direction? You know, like make it like almost like a cartoon Mario and Luigi game.
That's what I'm saying. Like leave the Mushroom Kingdom, like you said, Cuphead. Mario gets sucked through the TV set and is like going through all these cool like cartoon worlds, or like, I want to do casino levels or like theme park style. Like I just want to see something new, because the 3D games they're so inspired when you go to like these cool worlds, and there's no reason why you can't see worlds like that.
You want to know
what
what would make a ridiculous amount of money, but it'll never happen?
What's that?
If they were to do a Mario and Mickey 2D platform crossover.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like, it's never gonna happen because Nintendo and Disney, I don't think, will be willing to. Well, Sora does exist in Smash Brothers, so maybe it's not that far-fetched, but it's fairly far-fetched.
True, but Sakurai is also a magician, so
Yeah.
it's like
It's far-fetched, but I just want to throw the idea out there. Like, what if Nintendo and Disney did work together, and it was a situation where it was very Cuphead-like? Like, imagine Mario and Luigi in, like, the old-style Disney cartoon kind of thing, and Mickey Mouse is a character. You know, like, what if, like, I know that may sound, like, completely far-fetched, and I'm saying it is far-fetched, but
yeah.
how far-fetched is it really?
Yeah.
Just imagine like that would look really cool. Like look how like imagine that, like, again, think Cuphead, like that sort of animation, but they can really there's a lot of cool concepts they could do with that. That it would. I just feel like it would fit so well.
Yeah, art style can work wonders. That I hate to say it because I'm such a big Mario fan, New Super Mario Bros. Series looks boring visually. It's just like I'm so tired of that aesthetic. I'd
Yeah,
love to see. That's why Starry Night stands out. It's so
yeah.
beautiful and cool and unique. I'm sick of the new Mario's Bros. Style. Give me something fresh.
It doesn't
Give me
have to,
something
let's go in a separate direction when we're talking about like art
Yeah,
style. Like, what if they go in like a steampunk direction?
yeah,
What if it's
totally.
like, what if they make this Mario game based off like Mario like in New York or something?
Yeah,
What if it's set in like New Donk City? Like there's
Dunk City,
like imagine like
Atlanta.
Mario
Turn
2D
your eye to
Mario
Atlanta.
going through like a back alley,
Yeah,
or like nightlife, you
right,
know. And maybe there is 2D Mario with the girders, like
right.
have we actually ever had a 2D Mario level that is girders? We haven't.
No.
We've had like the victory lap stuff in Mario Odyssey, but have we ever had a full scale level that takes place on girders that isn't Donkey Kong, like the original Donkey Kong where Mario was just named Jumpman? No.
Yeah.
That would be
Well,
cool, right?
Even Donkey Kong, when Retro took over that series, did some really cool stuff to make it stand out. I think about those levels where um, you're like they do the lighting, so you're a silhouette. You see the red tie and stuff, but you're just like a complete silhouette, and it's super like cool and stylish. Even little things like that are just so fun to see, a treat for the eyes.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see them do some more interactivity with the levels. Like again, not to bring up Donkey Kong again, but even like that's a 2D game, but it has a little bit of those 2.5D elements with the barrels shooting you deeper into like the diorama of
Yeah,
the level.
jumping into the foreground and background, like that interplay
Right.
there.
Like, yeah, I just like they do so many cool. They really push themselves with 3D open world games, and that's what's so great about Mario 3D World for me is, in ways, it still is a 2D Mario, 2.5D. It's that point A to point B, but they do enough with the level design to make it feel like a huge jump forward, and they can still keep it true 2D and make changes, even if it's just aesthetically, to make it more interesting and exciting to go through.
Yeah.
And they move that.
Another thought is, what if the rumored Donkey Kong game is a Mario and Donkey Kong game? Like what if the gameplay is not Mario and Luigi, it's not Donkey Kong and Diddy, it's Mario and Donkey Kong. Some people might be upset with that because it's not like a true Donkey Kong game. But if there's a 2D Donkey Kong game around the corner, and there's also a 2D Mario game around the corner, which, by the way, is not rumored at all, by the way. There's no rumors for a 2D Mario. It's just kind of like something that I think makes sense. I don't know. But there's stuff they could do with that. Like, imagine, like some of the co-op opportunities between, like, Mario and Donkey Kong. Like, Mario is more of a jumper, and then Donkey Kong's more of a roller... slam you kind of character. There's just some really cool things they could do if they were to go in that direction. I'm not saying they will, but there's definitely a lot of options for 2D Mario if you think about it. I think, at least from like a thematic perspective, gameplay wise, I think it's challenging. But if you start to think about the different themes and what you can do from that, there's still a lot they can do there to make things interesting. I mean, even in Mario Maker, like they introduce like a lot of dungeon elements, like with the keys and stuff like that. Like they could go more in that direction. Or to your point, what if they were to start play around more with like the foreground, background kind of gameplay style? Like both you look at Metroid Dread, it's another game that's 2D, but they do a lot of things that sort of blur the lines between 2D and 3D. So if they were to create that Mario game that's 2D, maybe they do that again. And maybe to your point, it ends up being more like 3D Land or 3D World, but maybe it's still 2D Mario, but it has some of those elements that really mix things up.
Right. And like as far as like old 2D Mario games, I feel like for me personally, I know a lot of people's favorite is Mario 3, but for me the pinnacle of 2D like old school Mario games is Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo. And the one thing that game does that is so great that I'd love to see make its way into a modern 2D Mario is the number of secret paths, secret passages, hidden levels that you could discover. There were so, like, you can go back and play that game and discover new secrets. People were discovering secrets in that game for years.
What if they were to make a Mario game that's more of like a Metroidvania?
Love it. That'd be awesome.
Right? Like, so there would still be like the worlds, like there would still be like the areas, but it would be all interconnected.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to do something fresh.
Yeah. So I mean, those are some possibilities there. But let's check on the chat real quick, see what you guys are thinking. Am I muted? Can you guys hear me? I feel like you guys can hear me.
I hear you perfect, but
okay, yeah, that guy's entire thing.
Talking.
Yeah, maybe I was just making faces without speaking. Yeah. Let's see here. The Megaton Menace, Adam. Doesn't Mario Maker 2 make a new 2D Mario pointless? So you see some people do feel that way. Novus talks. Do you think Bayonetta 3 will be the end? Platinum is changing their attitude toward their games, and since the voice actors have been replaced, and we saw the OG Bayo die in the teaser. I'm not a Bayonetta expert, so I don't really want to speak too much on that. I want to say no, but like I can't say with confidence. I think ultimately it comes down to, is Bayonetta 3 successful? And we'll see from there. If Bayonetta 3 is successful, then I think it's going to happen regardless. Like, that's it. So, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I don't think it unless it's like
I don't
think that series is going to disappear. I mean, we're lucky that we got Bayonetta 2 and that we're getting Bayonetta 3 because Nintendo was willing to publish and lend some aid to Platinum to get those games done. So yeah, I think it's just going to be those games historically, like critically, do extremely well. They're really polished, fun, fast-paced action games. I think it's just going to be a matter of how well does the third one do? Is it as loved as the second one was? And if it was, and it does do well, like things typically do on Switch, I think it's likely.
I mean, you know, like Bayonetta 2 wasn't even like that successful, right? Like I feel like Bayonetta 3 probably will be far more successful. So it's kind of hard to imagine that they won't be satisfied with the results. Right. So we'll see. Giancarlo is saying, I think a new 3D Mario is more likely than a 2D Mario. I don't know. Well, I think that there absolutely is a 3D Mario in development, and I think there is a chance that a 2D Mario is not in development. So, to your point, I agree. 3D Mario is more likely than 2D Mario. But I don't think 3D Mario is coming out this year. And I do think that 2D Mario could come out this year. And just because 3D Mario is in development doesn't mean 2D Mario can't also be in development. And I have a hard time believing Nintendo will never ever make a 2D Mario again. That just seems far-fetched, really. Like, Nintendo loves to revisit concepts and ideas, especially for Mario, and they would love to play off nostalgia. Like, even if it doesn't happen soon, eventually there will be another 2D Mario. Like, I think that has to happen. So, you know, I agree with you, but that doesn't mean 2D Mario still isn't happening. It still could happen. So, yeah. Who else but Zane said, I disagree. If anything, Mario Maker should give Nintendo more inspiration for a new 2D game. I think this is in reference to the idea that Mario Maker takes away from the possibility of 2D Mario. Yeah, it'd be nice to see, again, like, you know, it would be interesting to see Nintendo make a game that has a lot of new concepts and ideas that aren't in Mario Maker at all. That would be awesome to see. Make it a fresh experience. I think what it does is that it puts more pressure on Nintendo to make a proper, fully inspired, realized 2D Mario as opposed to something like NSMBU. So, you know, what it means is that when we do get a 2D Mario, it's probably going to be one of the best ones in a long time. Either that or it doesn't happen. And it hasn't happened in a while, so, you know. Let's see here. Noah's talks. In 2015, Miyamoto said he wants to make Mario Galaxy 3. Since we have no inclination to believe an Odyssey sequel will happen, do you think we'll finally get Galaxy 3? I badly want it. I don't think so. Have we ever seen Nintendo go back to a 3D Mario and make a sequel to it? Now, that doesn't mean there can't be Galaxy elements. That doesn't mean there can't be space in the future. That doesn't mean there can't be allusions to Galaxy 1 and 2. But I don't think we're going to get a game that will be called Super Mario Galaxy 3. That will not be the name. I think if best case scenario, we eventually see a Mario that's called Super Mario Universe. Like, that they would be sort of paying homage to that, but also suggesting an expansion of that. I don't think we're ever going to get a Galaxy 3 specifically. So,
yeah. No, I don't think so either. I also feel like if we were getting Odyssey 2, like a direct sequel to Odyssey, we probably would have heard about that by now. I feel like the next 3D Mario is probably going to be another new take for Mario.
Yeah, well, the thing is, a lot of people started buying into the Galaxy 2 idea not Galaxy 2, Odyssey 2, because there was the Sonic leak, and there was like a survey where they basically detailed a whole bunch of elements for the Sonic game that have now proven to be true, and that same survey had stuff about a Mario Odyssey 2. I don't think it means that everything in that survey is 100% true. I think it was a survey that was asking someone somewhere about different ideas and concepts, and some of those ideas and concepts were taken into account for the Sonic game. And the other stuff was just maybe like a fake out. So
right.
You know,
sometimes too, like some of that background information could be like alluding to the successor to a game, and you know, not necessarily a direct sequel, but you know, sometimes we'll get information like that, and it will be the next game, but not necessarily a direct sequel. Is what I'm saying.
Right.
But who knows? Yeah. Maybe it is Mario Odyssey 2.
Maybe.
I do think we'll see it in the Switch's lifetime before the next console. I think we'll get another big Mario.
We got a Splatoon sequel. We're getting a Mario sequel. I mean, a Zelda sequel. We got several Pokemon games. We got a DLC for Mario Kart 8, which no one thought would happen at this point. We'll see, man. We'll see. The Switch is a very unique situation for Nintendo. We've never really been in this kind of territory before. So we'll see what the future holds. But we did get Bowser's Fury, so like there is kind of like already a second 3D Mario experience on the Switch.
Yeah, it's hard because like if we take like things that Nintendo's saying at face value, you know, the Switch is just over halfway, you know, through its lifespan, according to them, and whatever that might mean. Like it could mean that, you know, the next console comes out in 2 years, the successor, but they're still putting stuff out on the Switch for another. Like it could mean a number of things, but with the success, like man, they're pumping out stuff this year. Like they're riding momentum, and there is like issues with chip shortages. So I don't think they're in any rush at the very least to get the successor out. So I think we at least got 2 more years. You know, at the very least.
Right. The other thing is that there's no guarantee that the successor will be nearly as successful, right?
Exactly.
So, like, you know, they might as well get as much as they can out of the Switch. But at the same time, I think they want to try and carry over that momentum, so they'll try and get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Let's see here. A guy you don't know, Anime. I think that ever since Super Mario 64, Nintendo started prioritizing 3D series over the 2D series, which is probably why every game after Super Mario World wasn't as ambitious. It is an interesting point that I do agree with you there that 3D Mario definitely has taken a backseat to 3D Mario in terms of developmental effort. That is absolutely true. That doesn't mean they can't do both, though. So we'll see what the future holds there. But there's still a few other things we want to talk about before we call it a night. I know we can go off the deep end with Zelda, so let's talk a little bit about this new Sakurai project. Do you think the Sakurai project is a game? Do you even know what it's in reference to? Should I try and pull up a quote?
Yeah, I saw his message that he posted, that he's back to work, that he took a break, he's back to work, and I forget what he said. It was very cryptic. It was something like, you probably won't see me, but I hope you see me. Like, it's not necessarily a game.
It's not necessarily a game for Nintendo.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Sakurai's trixies, he's it's hard to get a read on him. He likes to troll people. Yeah, and I don't think he's flat out lying or anything. So I think it's definitely a possibility that it could be a brand new venture for him. It could be something maybe like TV, anime, or movie related. Maybe he's getting involved. Nintendo's obviously branching off into the movie industry with the Mario movie. I'm sure Nintendo, if that movie's successful, I'm sure Nintendo won't stop there. They obviously have their theme parks coming out.Maybe Sakurai's designing something for the Super Mario World Universal, an interactive experience.
What if they were trying to make
there's a number of things.
What if they wanted to bring the Smash cinematic universe into a reality?
I love it. And they've already got Detective Pikachu and Sonic, so we're partially there. Mario's coming out.
Yeah, they could do that. There's a number of possibilities there, but for the sake of argument or discussion, let's just assume. And it could be movie related. It could be something artistic. It could be even non-Nintendo, if it ends up being a game. But if it is a game, then it is Nintendo. What do you think Sakurai could do next, or maybe what would you like Sakurai to do next?
Smash Brothers Infinite. No, I'm kidding. I'd love to see him revisit Kid Icarus, man. I know I'm not alone on that. I know a lot of people would love to see Kid Icarus come back. It had a nice revival on the 3DS, and I don't know, seeing all the things that all the success of these revitalized series on the Nintendo Switch, having a hybrid console, realizing that world, make a open world Kid Icarus game where you're just flying around the map and you've got really cool boss fights and a great story. I don't know. I'd love to see him branch off and do something really ambitious with the Kid Icarus series.
Yeah,
a new IP.
Kid Icarus Uprising is my favorite 3DS game, besides Metroid Samus Returns. Actually, Metroid Samus Returns has better controls, but Uprising is one of my favorite 3DS. It's the most. It's kind of like an experience that feels kind of like its own thing, and everything else on 3DS is really good, but there's kind of something comparable to it elsewhere. There's not really anything too comparable to Kid Icarus Uprising. You kind of have to. The only place you can play that kind of game is on 3DS. Yes, it's at times an on-rail shooter, and at times it's a third-person adventure action game, and other times it's multiplayer. But altogether, the way it feels, there's not really anything else quite like it. Versus, for example, Metroid Samus Returns, we have Metroid Dread, right? And then there was Metroid Fusion. There's basically just 2D Metroid, right? Or, for example, Ocarina of Time 3D. It's just a 3DS version of Ocarina of Time. A Link Between Worlds, an amazing game on 3DS. But, there's still a Link to the Past, and there's still Minish Cap. There isn't anything quite like Kid Icarus Uprising, is my point. I would love to see something like that again. That would be amazing. And if it was done on the Switch, it probably would have way better controls, too, so it'd be so good. Attachment. What?
You won't need an attachment to play.
Yeah, no boat this time. But if they had a boat,
that'd be pretty cool.
It'd be fun. But as much as I would love to see Kid Icarus come back, and I hope it does, I don't think Sakurai has to be one to bring it back. But something I think he could do, to breathe life into another franchise, someone that I think he could be the right guy that could breathe life back into the Star Fox world. Imagine if Sakurai were to be behind Star Fox. I mean, Star Fox already gets a pretty good amount of love in the Smash Bros. Series, and think about it. Why did Kid Icarus Uprising happen? Because of Smash Brothers, So like, I can see him doing that, and with all the quirky characters that are in Star Fox, look at how they handled Kid Icarus Uprising. Really, like, Kid Icarus Uprising was basically Star Fox, but with Greek mythology. You know, imagine if there's more of a focus on it being Star Fox with all those quirky characters. There could be an amazing sort of narrative there with these fun characters, and there could still be an extensive fun multiplayer, which Sakurai is pretty good at pushing for a lot of his games. So, and I think something that Star Fox needs. I think he would do a great job of bringing back the series if they were to go in that direction.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, we were talking about Star Fox earlier, and I was talking about like how they need to shake things up, you know, do something a little bit more ambitious with it instead of continuing to re-release Star Fox 64 over and over again. But multiplayer is something I definitely feel like Star Fox has never really had the best. Like, the multiplayer is like kind of meh in Star Fox. That's something Sakurai is extremely, like, dude, he is a legend when it comes to making fun multiplayer. So
right.
That's something I do think he could nail. So I think that is a good point. But yeah, no, I think Star Fox would be in good hands with Sakurai, as well as a new IP. You know, he's such a creative person. I think he could probably be one of those people to create a completely new, you know, world and new experience that would probably be really cool and really fun to, you know, try out.
Yeah. No, it's kind of like, what would that be? I don't know, but there's so much it could be, right? Like, you look at Kirby Air Ride, like, he's made some pretty unique experiences. So I would love to just see what he would come up with. So, you know, in a way, I'm kind of glad he's done with Smash Brothers, just to see something entirely new. And maybe it'll be on Nintendo. If not, I'll probably still play it though. So
now, if Sakurai's next project isn't video game related, what would you want from him? Do you think? What would you be excited about if it's not a video game?
Smash Cinematic Universe.
Cinematic Universe?
That's it.
Smash Cinematic. Yeah, dude, I think that would be really hype.
Otherwise, I don't know what I don't know. There's nothing else he would do. Like, he makes games, so like.
Yeah, but the thought of like doing all like this, like, you know, even if they just do the original Smash lineup and they do a standalone or like feature film for each character. Was it 8 characters in the original Smash? Is it 8?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be movies. Like, even if it's like an anime or like a cartoon series. Just some sort of like series like that's episodic that we can watch, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Or build it up like how Marvel led up to the Avengers, like Endgame, and you know, build it up to like the big tournament. You got the origin stories, everyone like getting the invite and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the big movie, the Smash Ultimate movie, is like the big tournament.
That'd be super cool. And if it was actually a tournament, that would be interesting.
Yeah,
I love me some tournament arcs.
I'm obsessed with tournament arcs. They're my favorite.
Yeah,
I love it.
Tournament arcs are always amazing. I actually usually get upset when tournament arcs get ended like halfway through because there's some sort of like cataclysmic event. A bunch of the fights, and you never actually see how it would have gone. Yeah. But for the sake of time, let's move on to the final topic here. Yeah. Okay, and that's simply speculating. Or not even, it could be speculation, but simply discussing the premise of Breath of the Wild being part of a trilogy. So, you could argue, in a way it already is. Because Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is telling the events beforehand, right? There's a huge history beforehand, and there's a game to it now. Then you have Breath of the Wild, and we're already getting the sequel. So you could already argue that it is a trilogy. But then, you know, Lord of the Rings has a prequel as well. It's called The Hobbit. Yet Lord of the Rings is still its own separate trilogy, right? So, even if Age of Calamity can be looked at as a proper prequel, which in a way it is and in a way it isn't, what if there was a game that follows Breath of the Wild too? I feel like in a way you could argue this discussion's a bit premature, because we don't even know what's going to happen in Breath of the Wild 2 yet, right? So that kind of limits us to have this discussion. Once Breath of the Wild 2 comes out, I'm sure we could revisit this with more seriousness. You know, so this may not be the longest topic ever, but it is an interesting idea to think that what if there is a third game in the series? And you know, we haven't quite had a trilogy in the mainline games that I can think of. Not a normal trilogy where it's just like
normal trilogy, yeah.
Like one, like, you know, 2, 1, 2, 3, right? There's like 1, then 2A, 2B, right? Like, so you have, so like, for example, Ocarina of Time, right? And then after Ocarina of Time, there's a sequel with Majora's Mask. But after that is Twilight Princess. You could look at it as sort of like a trilogy, but it's not really involving the same characters, right? And then like for and then there's Wind Waker, which takes place around the same time as Twilight Princess, but in a different timeline. And again, not really using the same characters. So there's not really, I can't think of a trilogy within the Zelda series. There's just a couple sequels.
Yeah, they've never really done your straightforward trilogy before. I mean, yeah, it's all speculation at this point. Like, we have, like you said, we have like nothing really to go off of this, so it's more, you know, just for fun. Based on the track record, I wouldn't say it's likely to happen. But again, stranger things have happened at Nintendo, and Breath of the Wild is, you know, this monumental success. It is a massive seller. Breath of the Wild 2 is one of the most hyped games for people, you know, across the industry. So, I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, I never thought in a million years we'd get a Hyrule Warriors that actually takes place in the Breath of the Wild universe that tells a story that's actually, like, attached to the game. Regular Hyrule Warriors makes sense, you know, it's you know, their own thing. But I think it's possible. My hope, if they did do something like that, would be that they do the Majora's Mask approach, to where we leave the land that we've come to know and love in the first 2 games. We're revisiting the same Hyrule as we know. They're expanding into the sky as we know. I think it's going to be hard to do that a third time without really introducing a decent chunk of...
I turned off my camera for a second, that's all.
No worries. Without releasing like a decent chunk of new locations to go to, tons of new mechanics. You know, new Zelda games, they generally feel a little bit different, play a little bit different, new modes of traversal. I think there would be too much to add, and it would be way too difficult to keep you in the same place. So if they did do it, I'd love to see you leave Hyrule. Not saying go back to Termina, but Andres, did I
I'm here. I'm just trying. I thought I could reset my camera or something. No, but now I made it worse. Yeah, I made it worse. It's just been so orange, it's been bothering me the whole night, and I just made it worse. So that's all. Yeah, I'll just reset it back to the light setting I had before. Whatever. It's fine. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I just can't see us revisiting that Hyrule again for a third time. It would have to take us out of what we've come to know from the first 2 games. There would have to be a huge departure, I feel like.
Yeah. No, there would have to be a departure there for it to make sense. Because I just, to your point from earlier, like Breath of the Wild is so successful that if there is a Zelda segment, like a Zelda time period that does get the third entry, it would be the Breath of the Wild time period, right? But I just feel like after Breath of the Wild 2, they're just gonna be so ready to move on. And to your point, the only way they can really do it is if they just go off in an entirely different area. I think revisiting Hyrule for a third time would just be weird. Unless it's a different time period with different elements at hand and a different art style, you know? And I really want to see another art style too.
Yes. Like as hyped as I was for the sequel to Breath of the Wild 2, the hypest announcement for me. Like, I lost my mind. One of my favorite things with new Zelda games is seeing the new art direction, the crazy art style. That was
Yeah.
like the one drawback of getting a sequel. It's such a small thing to even nag about, but because we're getting a sequel of one of my favorite games ever, I'm excited for the future. Like, what's after this? What's next? What's gonna
Yeah.
be the new crazy style
Yeah,
they
well, which we're
choose?
probably like 5 years from seeing, but like,
Right.
it's exciting to think about like how that'll look. I really want to see how that'll look when that does happen. So, I don't even really necessarily want a trilogy. I say that now because depending on what happens in Breath of the Wild 2, whatever those story element, whatever that sort of entails, like I may want to see more from that. We know Ganondorf is involved. What if they defeat Ganondorf and they're like, okay, we thought we got the root of the evil, but the real root of the evil is demise, right? So then it's Link and Zelda and the champions, and it's a time travel quest, and they have to go back in time to before Skyward Sword and just eliminate demise from the very like root of time or something, something like that would be interesting.
Yeah.
But that would also mean that it wouldn't be the same Hyrule, right? To your point, it would be going somewhere else. So it would be fun to see that, but I also would just want like a new sort of art style.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, the only way I see it working is Majora's Mask style. They did it brilliantly. Kind of go down the Alice in Wonder rabbit hole into this just bizarre, quirky, weird world. Otherwise, it's hard to picture. And like you said, we dealt with Calamity Ganon. We dealt with like the untamable beast basically in the first one, and now we're gonna be confronting the master of darkness, Ganondorf himself. So this feels like it's gonna be like that final showdown against the source of evil.
Yeah, I mean this is gonna be the more powerful, true, to your point, the source of evil here. And I'm hoping that they really kind of build up that rivalry, that relationship, so when you do get to that final fight, it's very satisfying and it's a nice climax to the story. I'm expecting things to close out here. I think they're going to put a nice, neat little bow on this universe of characters. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll want to do another one. We'll see. But yeah, my expectation is they don't do that. Could it be fun? Again, yeah, like if there's some sort of, if they want to fight Demise or something, or do that would be interesting. But definitely, I'm just kind of ready for like an entirely new Zelda after this.
Right. Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, with the wait for the next game, how they're probably putting so much time into really expanding upon this universe, adding tons of new mechanics and features, making the world feel more dense and full of things to do. I mentioned how Nintendo realizes the power of, shaking things up and changing what we know and expect. They've created this world. They're doing it a second time. They're really going to build on it. Now it's going to be time to tread new ground after that and shake things up once again, introduce some of the other races that we haven't seen in Zelda for a while, and, some of the other mechanics, and, maybe bring back some of the, items and things that just don't work or fit in Breath of the Wild. Maybe we'll see more ocean stuff again. Not necessarily a Wind Waker scale where the entire world is flooded, but I'd love to see them explore some of like the ship and exploration mechanics that don't seem to exist in Breath of the Wild, as far as we can see. Obviously, you have the boats. You could use like the leaves to make them go and that. But as far as the sequel goes, we know nothing more about the possibility of exploring seas or oceans or whatnot. Who knows, though?
I have an idea, and it's really dumb. But so like, in Breath of the Wild, we see into the far, far, far beyond. Right, there's a horizon. Right, so they would have to kind of either retcon that or make the world so much bigger that it would work, or they would have to lift the entire mass of Hyrule from where it's at. But I would almost love it if they were to expand to have more ocean exploration, right? That you can go, how do they explain the edge? in previous games, it's like there's like a wind or something, right? But what if this time there's not like a wind, but you can go so much further out that you can get to the very edge of the world, and the edge of the world is flat. Or in the sense that, like, it's not so much that the world is flat, but like there's nothing there. It's just like water and then space. Like, that'd be kind of cool to see, you know? And heck, maybe there's a scenario where you can even go into space to some extent. So imagine, like, there's space, there's the skies, there's the seas, there's underwater, there's underground, there's the land itself. You know, there is the sacred realm. There's so many different things they could maybe throw in there that'd be really cool. I'm not saying that has to be like, you know, an edge of the earth kind of thing. That was just an idea. But like, and again, it wouldn't work because Breath of the Wild doesn't have one. But they would have to like lift everything out from the ground, so there would be an edge of whatever Hyrule is. But you know, what if there is like space exploration, right? Like, what if the skies isn't even the top of Breath of the Wild? What if that's not the highest point in the game?
You just gave me my prediction, man. If we get a trilogy, if we get a third Breath of the Wild game, my prediction is that the third game has to do with outer space. And
Super The Legend of Zelda Galaxy 3.
Because, well,
of
not
the
just
wild
because
breath.
we're talking about it and it sounded cool, but if we also look at some of the, you know, Nintendo loves to revisit unused ideas, even if it's like decades down the road.
Yeah.
If you look at some of that concept art, there was a heavy space theme for a while.
There's a UFO.
That they experimented with. The concept art of like alien invasions, even Ganondorf standing on like a floating.
The Sheikah
like,
monks are just ancient aliens, bro.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. So, yeah, maybe there is some ancient alien technology. Yeah, so my prediction is if we get a trilogy, we're going to outer space. There's going to be some sort of deity, kind of like Majora's Mask, this extraterrestrial deity that's even more powerful than Ganondorf on the level of Majora's Mask, some ancient alien.
Like, what did they explain that Demise is actually an alien? Like, he's a demon, but demons come from space. And Demise is just one of many. You know, and there is a king of those people. Huh?
He was the runt of the litter.
Yeah, and there's actually a far more powerful king of aliens that's a demon. Alien king.
Yep.
You know?
They could do some cool stuff. We already have some zero-G, archery.
Yeah, those patents are suggesting some pretty cool stuff there. So, that would be interesting.
Shotting across asteroid belts. You know, moblins in space. It could happen, guys.
People would hate this. Space Zelda. I don't know. I think there's a way that actually could work, but it wouldn't be like how do you merge medieval fantasy with space sci-fi? Like, Zelda does it already. There's a lot of sci-fi elements in there, but do they bring in actual technology? Space? Right. Like, how do they appropriately merge that to where it makes sense within the context of the Breath of the Wild world or just the Legend of Zelda world?
Right.
And
that's
like
why That's why they'd have to do the Majora's Mask thing, where there has to be something that pulls you out of.
Yeah, they would have to go in the direction of something really kooky, like quirky and weird and strange and eerie. I mean, Majora's Mask had aliens, by the way, so yeah. Aliens aren't a stranger to Zelda. Like, they were in Majora's Mask. There's UFOs in the concept art for Breath of the Wild. If you look at the Sheikah monks, they straight up scream Sheikah, like Mayan, Aztec, Egyptian, ancient aliens like themes. So it's really not that much of a stretch. It's just space exploration is where it becomes maybe stretchy. But depending on how they handle that, like maybe it's realms beyond Hyrule that are beyond the globe, and there's space, but it's not so much that you are in a astronaut suit flying through space on a rocket ship per se. Maybe you ride a dragon. Maybe there's a space dragon, and you fly through a particular set of planets that are smaller that are connected to Hyrule or something, you know? But it's done in a very like ethereal, surreal, fantastical kind of way that feels more Zelda And then when you're on those planets, it's still very Zelda-esque, right? It's almost like, oh, look, there were actually... What if Sheikahs were aliens, right? And there were ancient civilizations built from these Sheikahs in different planets. So you get to see how they would have handled those areas and how time transpired for them and whatever sort of evil ancient demons they had to face, right? Then all of a sudden, Breath of the Wild isn't a trilogy. It's just an infinite series. But that's what Legend of Zelda already is. So, you know.
Yeah. I'll also like to add that we did get a motorcycle in Breath of the Wild, and at one point in the concept art, Link wielded an electric guitar as well. But here's how it's going to go down. You're going to do your final confrontation with Ganondorf. He has this super powerful relic, this unknown technology that he's barely begun to understand the powers of, and how he's able to use it in his goals. And something goes horribly wrong. The thing shatters. It disrupts space and time. Ganondorf and Link are sucked in. You get the black screen. The Legend of Zelda will return. And it sets up this cataclysmic ending that just changed every reality you ever understood about Zelda and Hyrule.
Am I wrong that I'm just thinking of Back to the Future?
Right. Don't listen to me, Nintendo.
I don't know. I think there's some serious potential here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our ideas are out of this world right now. So, pun intended. We're out of this time. But, yeah, I mean, you know, seeing Legend of Zelda play around with the space-time continuum would be nice. But I don't know.
Some time mechanics teased in the game.
Yeah, there absolutely are. Or space mechanics.
And space mechanics.
Well, like, for example, like, people were theorizing that, like, that jumping mechanic was also related to time, the jumping through platforms, but that seems like, based off the patents, it just seems like more like just a giant vertical jump, you know? Yeah. Which is more of a space thing. Like, what if it's cutting the gap between, like, it literally is just like, alright, this is getting kind of like, you know, theoretical physics kind of thing, right? But, like, you know how, like, they've always described... I need a piece of paper. It's just a random thing. So, like, you know, if you want to, like, be able to get to one point faster to another, what you do is you fold it, and you jump through. And there you go. You're on the other side. It's a lot quicker than going this way. The amount of distance you have to travel to get from here to here is like a millimeter as opposed to, like, half a foot, right? So, like, there's a significant... I realize you use different metric systems there, but you get my point. Like, what if the idea behind... Well, maybe you guys don't get my point, but the basic idea is simply that vertical jumping mechanic is just a form of teleportation, really. You know, I mean, that's what it is. It is a form of traveling. So, you know, we're already messing with the traversal of space, and with that rune mechanic you mentioned earlier about the time thing, reversing the reverse stasis effect, that's playing with time. So we're already seeing mechanics that are playing with our traversals of both space and time in this game. So, you know, I'd love to see them to continue to sort of mess with that. There's a lot they could do with there. The physics in Breath of the Wild is already insane. There's already a crazy amount of things that people are still figuring out how to do in this game. You give us a whole slew of new mechanics and runes to play around with an updated physics engine. Man, there's a stacking ability here, right? Like, imagine if they were just to add an additional rune to the options we already have in Breath of the Wild. There's like a multiplier effect. So if you give us a slew of new things to do, there's just a lot of potential, man. A lot of exciting potential there, I think, from a gameplay perspective. It's pretty exciting. Yeah. But I think we're done talking about space and time and aliens and Zelda for now.
Yep. See you later.
See you later. I'll just check in with a couple things in the chat, and then we'll actually call it a night. Noah's Talks added me. Smash Cinematic Universe is possible since even a Metroid movie was in development years ago, and even had a director. Sakamoto also said recently he'd love to revisit it. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's all sorts of Nintendo movies that could still happen. I think Nintendo wants to see how the Mario movie plays out, but there are rumors of a Donkey Kong movie. There were supposedly plans for like a Netflix Zelda adaptation, but that those plans fell through. Nintendo has been looking to do things, so the idea of there being different Nintendo properties involved with TV or movie, not at all crazy. It's happening. It's been happening. There will be more. The question is, will they be interconnected? Will they be treated like Marvel? Will they sort of tie it all with Smash Brothers? There's a potential there, but it's also highly ambitious, and it's not like it's Nintendo's focus to make movies. Their focus is to make games. But they could find a way to do both. It could have an incredible impact on them. Like if they could find a way to do something, not quite to the extent of the MCU, because that's just ridiculous, but like if they were to do something to that effect, that would increase popularity of their brand and merchandising, and thus game sales as well. So it can have a compounding effect in both ways, actually. So, I think they would love to do that, but that'll take time.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Curry Fanatics 2006. I really hope Nintendo, along with Intelligence, makes a new Paper Mario game. Well, Paper Mario Origami King came out 2020. I'm sure there's another one in development. I wouldn't be surprised if we see it by 2024. So, keep that in mind, maybe.
I love Paper Mario.
Huh?
Although I do miss like the 1,000-Year Door style. I still enjoy the new ones. Origami King I think is better than...
Yeah. Origami King is a really fun adventure game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, love it.
And I think the writing was really good in it. The ending was very unexpected. I think it had a lot of emotional pull.
There was a couple of moments that were tear-jerkers for me.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Origami King should not be slept on. It is a good game.
I agree.
Let's see here. The Megaton Menace added me. Maybe Link gets pulled into space by Claus using Conduit. Sure. I'm not sure who Claus is.
Santa Claus?
Santa Claus? What
Santa? Is that you? Just rips him through.
Actually, you know what? We were talking about how there's not really a trilogy in the Zelda series. That's not entirely true. The closest one is who else but Zane pointed out. Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, a Toon Link trilogy. Spirit Tracks is connected to the other two, but it is technically reincarnations, right? So It's not like a full-scale trilogy, but it's the closest thing we have because it's deeply connected to the events of Phantom Hourglass.
That's the thing that we talked about. It's a departure of the land that you've explored. Wind Waker and Phantom Hourglass are the ocean exploration, and it ditches that and brings you onto land again.
Yeah, land's not even. It's a new Hyrule. It's not the same Hyrule.
Yeah, it's completely. So yes, it's a trilogy, but it's in the vein, like we said, where it like basically abandons the previous setting.
But the characters are all sort of reincarnated. So they're not even the same characters necessarily, but maybe you could argue they are just sort of like in different roles. But definitely, that is almost a full true trilogy. So we did kind of miss that one. So yeah, I mean, to Cameron's point, that it would have to be like a departure from the land to make it make sense there. Maybe they go to space. To the point we were discussing earlier. But anyways, guys, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out Cameron's channel, Gamebird Classic, a link in the description below. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already here and on his channel, and we'll see you really soon. Take care. Bye.